Madridistas, welcome to Madrid on a very, very gloomy day, and not just because of the weather. I wasn't going to make a video today, but I feel absolutely compelled to do so after what happened last night. Last night was one of the biggest travesties that I have ever seen in the world of sports. Yesterday was a very sad day, not just for football and for sports, but also for truth and for fairness. It is a really, really sad day. I'm going to talk to you guys about the Ballon d'Or. I did a whole video about the Ballon d'Or not too long ago, explaining the whole process, but we'll talk about the Ballon d'Or and as it applied to last year specifically, and see just how grotesque this injustice is. But we'll also talk about UEFA and anti-Madridismo. And sadly, we have to talk about truth because yesterday, like I say, was an assault on truth and on fairness. And then I'll leave you guys with a message for the head of France Football, which I will do in his own language. And of course, a message for Vini. Thank you for joining me. Let me give you my thoughts on this absolutely horrific event. Let's get started. Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let's talk about what happened last night. You know, as I mentioned, I did a video not too long ago explaining the whole process, voting, etc. And I'll put the link in the description in case you guys want to see that. It's quite detailed. The Ballon d'Or. Let's first of all, kind of just generally, the Ballon d'Or, you know, has always been a very important part of European football. I remember. I think the first one that I remember was probably Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. I was very, very little. I was just a kid. I remember Platini winning a bunch of them. I remember Gullit and Marco van Basten, this incredible generation of Dutch players. It was something that everybody followed. You know, people may have had differences of opinion, but it's something that everybody really believed in and followed and respected. Even in the era of, you know, Messi and Cristiano, when they dominated it for so many years, you know, it never really felt kind of grotesquely unfair. I mean, it kind of alternated between the two. There may have been some years where you thought, you know, maybe Messi deserved it or Cristiano, but it didn't feel shockingly unfair. It felt sort of marginal and something to be debated. Now, the first red flag, and again, I discuss all of this in the video, which I really recommend you guys watch. The first sort of red flag was 2021, and it was the year that Messi won it over Lewandowski. And so many people were just utterly shocked at that, and there was quite a bit of a public outcry at the time. And so they instituted some changes. They reduced the voting to 100 instead of 150, 100 journalists from around the world. And what they did was reiterate the criteria for which you are voting. So it's very simple. And again, in the video, I explain it in detail. Number one, it's your individual performance on the pitch. Number two, it's your contribution to your team's success. And number three is sportsmanship, which is kind of a generic PC thing. You know, unless you rob a bank, I think all players are okay on that third one. So they once again emphasize what you're supposed to be voting for, and they reduce the number of people voting. But then it happened again. In 2023, Messi won it over Erling Haaland. And I go into detail in my video. This was completely incomprehensible. Haaland went to the most competitive league in the world, broke every scoring record there is, and won the treble. He won the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the Champions League. And they gave it to Messi, who had a horrible year at PSG and went off to play in the MLS, which is really a playground for retired footballers. And yes, he participated in the World Cup and Argentina won, but there was absolutely no way that made any sense. And the system of voting is 100 journalists from around the world. Now, in the video I explain, I'm not trying to be cynical, but you know, journalists, even in rich countries, don't make a lot of money. I think it's quite easy to persuade a journalist, and 75% of the ones on that list come from very poor countries, developing countries. It's not this is very reminiscent of how Qatar won the World Cup. It's just it is not difficult to manipulate this voting if you want to, and it doesn't take a lot of money. And it's a sad thing to say, and I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful, but this is the truth. Now, let's think about what happened this year. Rodri is not even in the top 3 in my mind. Look, maybe 3 years ago when Man City won the treble, that would have been a very good year to consider Rodri the winner, if you believe so. But of course, I think Haaland would have probably outshined him. But we have to remember the criteria, and it makes absolutely no sense. Look, the number one elite club competition in the world is the Champions League. It always has been. And that cannot change from one day to the next. If you believe that the Champions League is the premier club competition in the world, Vini is the winner. There is no question about it. Even in La Liga, he was so dominant. He was the difference maker in every single match. And in the Champions League, he slayed everybody, Bayern and City and Borussia Dortmund. If the Champions League is what it's supposed to be, Vini takes the cake. End of discussion. Now, if you try to argue that the Euro is what really matters, because Rodri, how on earth are you trying to pin this trophy on a guy that won the domestic league and the Euro? Well, if the Euro matters so much more than the Champions League, then Carvajal wins it. Because Carvajal won the Liga, and Carvajal won the Champions League, and he scored a goal in the final as a right back. And Carvajal was the captain and leader of that Spanish squad that won the Euro. Rodri was not even the best player on the Spanish squad. Nico Williams made a bigger difference. Dani Olmo made a bigger difference. Carvajal was much more consistent. It does not make any sense. And if you try to redefine the criteria and say, well, revelation and impact on football, well, then it would be Jude. Because Jude took La Liga and European football by storm. And it was something that everybody was just baffled by. So if that is what you're voting for, then Jude takes it. Okay? And then if you want to talk about incredible midfielders and maybe want to attribute their career, well, then Toni Kroos should have won it. Not Rodri. Kroos had a better year than Rodri. Kroos played better than Rodri last year. There is absolutely no objective metric or objective criteria by which you can justify Rodri winning this. You just can't. But why did it happen? Well, because 2 years ago, UEFA began to cooperate with France Football in matters of the Ballon d'Or. And what do you think the chances are that that was going to have an impact against Real Madrid? Look, Ceferin, okay, this tyrant is absolutely hell-bent on doing everything he can to destroy Real Madrid. Now, Florentino Perez is behind the Super League, and I have done a video about that, disagreeing with Florentino. I disagreed with the first format, and in my video I explained that I disagree with the second format. Okay, but Florentino is behind it. Okay, and UEFA absolutely loathes him. There were even audios released last year of Ceferin having conversations with Rubiales, the head of the federation here, and they were just openly expressing their hate for Florentino Perez. This is absolutely targeted towards Real Madrid. And I'm very, very happy that that somebody leaked it and Real Madrid canceled their presence in the ceremony, because what UEFA wanted to do was to humiliate us. They wanted the cameras to show all the Real Madrid players when Vini didn't get it. They wanted to humiliate us in public, and I'm very happy that we didn't go. If this had happened to Lamine Yamal, the Barca, half the city would be on fire. This is a grotesque injustice, and there is no rational way to justify Rodri winning this trophy in football terms or any metric that you can think of. It is simply manipulated and political, and that is the very, very sad truth. Now, unfortunately, there is a lot of the Spanish press, and I've explained to you guys that in other videos, is ferociously anti-Madridista, and this is when we have to talk about truth, and we have to get a little bit philosophical. The journalists here who don't like Real Madrid, there is no interest, and even friends of mine who hate Real Madrid, there is no attempt ever to consider truth or be objective. Every single thing they say and think is conditioned exclusively by their hate of Real Madrid. If Florentino Perez says that 2 + 2 is 4, they will say that no, it's actually 5. There is no desire. They're like the parent that thinks that their kid is the smartest kid in school, even though he's a dumbass. But they absolutely must defend their little child, even when all evidence points to the fact that your kid is not the smartest kid. This is the level of sort of emotional blind loyalty that these people have. They don't care what the subject is. They are anti-Madridistas in anything related to Madrid. It doesn't matter how blatant or unfair it is. Now, I've always wondered to myself, when they do this, do they know that they're lying? Or have they managed to convince themselves of the lies their brain produces? I've always wondered about this because I find it fascinating, because I hear intelligent people say the most ridiculous things, and I wonder to myself, do they know that they're insane? Or, I mean, have they started to believe their own? It's extraordinary to me. But there is a difference between loving your colors and loving your club and truth. And you all know how fanatical a Madridista I am. But I can tell you that the other night, Barça kicked our ass. And Barça deserved to win. And they were much better. And they have an incredible generation. And I can sit here and tell you that I think Lamine Yamal is probably the best teenager I've ever seen in my life. And I'm 56 years old. And I don't mind saying it. I can also say that watching Iniesta and Xavi and Messi in that golden period up to 2015 was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in the history of football. And I consider myself privileged to have seen it. And I can say this and still be a Madridista. You will never get anti-Madridistas to ever say anything like this. You won't. Because there is no desire for truth or justice or fairness. They're not interested in the pursuit of truth. They're only interested in attacking Real Madrid. And it's really, really, really sad. So to France Football, all I can say is, Monsieur le chef, je ne sais pas comment tu t'appelles, le mec qui contrôle tout ça, mais France Football est fini. Peut-être pas comme publication, mais je t'assure que la petite cérémonie est finie. On ne va jamais le voir, on ne va jamais le croire. C'est dommage, mais c'est vrai. C'est la fin. Vous avez perdu absolument toute votre crédibilité. Et c'est la fin de France Football. Je suis désolé, mais c'est vrai. So that's for the head of France Football. And Vini, to you, você é o melhor jogador do mundo. Nenhuma dúvida. Você é o melhor jogador do mundo. We love you, Vini. You're an inspiration. You're the best player in the world. And your tenacity and your ability to deal with all the crap you have to put up with and still perform day after day is inspiring. Not just to young football players, but I think to anybody that watches you. So, Vini, you are the best. Forget about these awards. They're corrupt and they're political. You are the best, and we love you, Vini. Okay? So, very emotional, but I had to get that out. Thanks for joining me, as always. And Real Madrid will bite back. You are messing with the wrong beast. This is not going to affect us. This is going to make us hungrier. And we're going to show UEFA once again who we are. They need to be reminded, and we're going to do it again. All right, thanks for being with me. A la Madrid.